Why do some people with half your talent walk into a room and immediately command attention? While you stay overlooked, you work harder, you prepare more, you care more, but somehow the spotlight never lands on you. It feels like you're living life from the background, like a ghost in your own story. But here's the uncomfortable truth most people never hear. Your life isn't limited by your talent. It's limited by an invisible psychological boundary called identity capacity. It's the hidden rule in your mind that decides how much success, opportunity, and recognition you believe you deserve. And until that boundary expands, your life will stay smaller than your potential. Today you'll hear the story of a man who spent years living inside an invisible cage, until one conversation forced him to realize something shocking. The door had been open the entire time. Leo was known as the reliable one. At 32, he worked at a consulting firm where deadlines were brutal and competition was quiet but intense. Leo was the person everyone depended on. When projects fell apart, they called Leo. When reports needed fixing, Leo stayed late. When the team needed someone responsible, Leo stepped up. But when promotions arrived, Leo disappeared. He sat in conference rooms watching co-workers receive praise for ideas he had quietly suggested weeks earlier. He watched people he trained move ahead of him. And every time it happened, Leo told himself the same story. Just keep your head down. Work harder. Eventually someone will notice. But deep down, a different voice whispered something painful. Maybe this is all you deserve. Let me ask you something honestly. Have you ever been the hardest worker in the room, yet somehow the most invisible? If that question feels uncomfortable, keep listening. Because Leo's problem might be the same problem many talented people quietly carry. Leo wasn't lazy. He wasn't untalented. He was careful. Growing up, his father gave him advice that sounded wise. Be realistic. Don't aim too high. Just build a stable life. Leo followed that advice perfectly. He didn't challenge authority. He didn't speak too boldly. He didn't push attention toward himself. He stayed quiet, safe, predictable. And at first, that strategy seemed smart. But something strange began happening. The safer Leo tried to be, the smaller his world became. Opportunities stopped appearing. Ideas stayed inside his head. And the life he once imagined slowly faded into something smaller. Not terrible, just smaller. Like living inside a room that kept shrinking every year. Think about your own life for a moment. Are you playing safe because it's wise? Or because it feels safer than risking rejection? That difference can quietly shape an entire lifetime. One night, after another promotion announcement skipped his name, Leo went home feeling exhausted. Not physically, emotionally. For the first time in years, he admitted something to himself. Working harder wasn't changing anything. So he called someone he hadn't spoken to in a long time. Mr. Chun, a family friend who had built one of the largest development companies in the city. Years earlier, Mr. Chun started with nothing but an empty piece of land and a bold vision. When Leo visited him the next day, Mr. Chun stood beside a massive window overlooking the skyline. He pointed at the towers stretching into the distance. 20 years ago, he said, that was empty land, dirt and weeds. Leo looked confused. Mr. Chin turned toward him. Someone had to look at dirt and see a city. Then he asked Leo a question. What do you see when you look at your future? Leo hesitated. I see something realistic. Mr. Chin smiled slowly. That might be your problem. When you imagine your future, do you see possibilities or limitations? Your answer might reveal more than you think. Mr. Chun walked to a shelf behind his desk. He placed a small metal bird cage on the table. Inside was a carved wooden bird. Then he opened the window beside them Outside stretched an endless blue sky. Clouds drifted slowly across the horizon. "Leo," he said quietly, "most people believe life puts them in a cage." He tapped the metal bars. "But the truth is, the cage is rarely outside." He pointed toward Leo's head. "It's here." The sky was always there. You just believed you belonged inside the cage. Leo stared at the cage. For the first time, he understood something uncomfortable. Nobody had locked him there. He had simply never tried the door. Let me ask you a powerful question. What if the limits you believe about yourself are not facts, but walls you quietly built? That day, Mr. Chin gave Leo a challenge. He called it the worthiness audit, a simple system designed to expose invisible mental cages. Step 1. The realistic lie. Write down one dream you abandoned because it felt unrealistic. Who told you it was unrealistic? A parent? A teacher? An old failure? Most of the limits in our lives are inherited voices, not real barriers. Step 2. The permission gap. Many people are not waiting for opportunity. They're waiting for permission. Permission to lead. Permission to be confident. Permission to be visible. But successful people don't wait for permission. They give it to themselves. Step 3. The ceiling test. Imagine your income doubling tomorrow. Your influence growing. Your ideas being respected. Would that feel exciting or uncomfortable? That discomfort reveals your identity ceiling. Until that ceiling rises, your life will keep returning to the same level. Take 5 seconds and think of one dream you labeled unrealistic. Now ask yourself something different. What if it wasn't unrealistic, but simply outside the cage you built? Awareness alone doesn't change identity. Action does. So Leo built a daily system Mr. Chin called a visibility workflow. Step 1. Master in the dark. Leo stopped doing average work, even when nobody noticed, because mastery creates confidence quietly. Step 2. The 10-minute exposure rule. Every day, Leo forced himself to be visible for just 10 minutes. Speak once in a meeting. Share one idea. Send one proposal. 10 minutes of courage. That was enough to begin opening the cage door. Step 3. Identity voting. Every bold action became a vote for a new identity. Speak up, vote for leadership. Take initiative, vote for authority. Ask for opportunity, vote for worth. Identity isn't declared once. It's built through repeated votes. What is one action you've been avoiding lately? One conversation. One opportunity. That small step might be the moment the cage door opens. The first week was terrifying. Leo's voice shook during meetings. His heart raced before presentations. His brain screamed, "Who do you think you are?" This is what psychologists call identity resistance. When you begin stepping outside the cage, your mind tries to pull you back to safety, back to familiarity, back to the small space you once believed was home. But Leo kept moving, one small step at a time, because he realized something powerful. Confidence doesn't appear before action. Confidence appears because of action. Fear doesn't disappear when you grow. It simply becomes quieter as your courage becomes louder. 6 months later, something surprising happened. Leo wasn't invisible anymore. Colleagues began asking his opinion. Managers noticed his initiative. Ideas he once kept silent were now shaping major projects. Then a leadership position opened inside the company. This time, Leo didn't wait to be chosen. He stepped forward, and he got the role. Not because he suddenly became more talented, but because he stopped living inside the cage. Opportunity doesn't reward the most talented person. It rewards a person ready to step into the sky. 1 year after meeting Mr. Chun, Leo stood in a new office overlooking the same skyline. The same sky he once believed belonged to other people. Now he understood something life-changing. The sky was always there, but the old version of him couldn't reach it. Not because he lacked ability, but because he believed he belonged in the cage. And once that belief changed, everything else followed. Your potential is not the problem. Your identity about your potential might be. Somewhere in your mind, there may be a quiet cage, built from old fears, old advice, and old limitations. But the door might already be open. And beyond that door is a sky bigger than you imagined. So the question is simple. Will you stay where it feels safe? Or will you step into the sky waiting for you? If this story made you realize you've been playing smaller than your potential, then the next step is learning how small actions reshape identity. Watch the video on the 1% discipline rule next. Because once you step out of the cage, discipline becomes the wings that help you fly. Subscribe to Tales of Motivation and start building the life your potential deserves.